Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Mailbag, the all-mailbag installment here on AMC Movie News, where all we do is take your mailbag questions. My name's John Campea. I am the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News, and I'm so glad you decided to join me on this Sunday for this installment of Mailbag. And, on Mailbag, it's more casual, more relaxed. We go into some behind-the-scenes stuff as well. We take your questions. But I wanted to share with you guys something that I am doing that I could really use your help with. My family has been touched by cancer, and I'm sure your family has been touched by cancer. You know somebody whose lives have been affected by cancer. And, one of the things that I really like to do, it's number one, it's amazing to me constantly that people watch us. That's crazy to me. It has been for a long time, like ever since my movie blog days. Like it's nuts to me. Just yesterday, we were walking downtown Burbank. A couple people stopped us, said, "Hey, John from AMC Movie Talk," whatever. And that blows my mind. And so because, we on AMC Movie Talk and stuff like that, we have the privilege of having a lot of you guys watch us. We also feel, and I feel, responsibility to try to use that, if we can, to do some good in the world. And we've done a few things. We did the Ice Bucket Challenge. We did, you remember we did the 24-hour marathon for Philippines disaster relief. And I wanted to do something now for cancer awareness and for the American Cancer Society. So I am participating in a little thing called No Shave November that I'm participating in, and I've set up a donation page. You can see there's a message there from me, and what I'm going to do is going to horrify the world. I am going to go the month of November without shaving. Now, a big secret I have kept from you guys is that I have the facial hair of a 12-year-old child. I have the most ridiculous, whenever I go a few days without shaving, you can see, first of all, it's a laugh. I'm going to go a month without shaving, and I'm going to look like a lot of you will look after 3 days without shaving. And it's going to be stupid looking, and it's going to be patchy, and it's not going to be even, and I'm going to look like an idiot. And that's fine. But every time you look at this idiot face, you're going to be reminded, oh, that's right, we're trying to raise money for cancer right now. So my idiot face is finally going to serve a bit of a function. And that idiot face is going to be, and how stupid I'm going to look, and already do look, but how especially stupid I'm going to look, will constantly be a reminder every time you watch AMC Mailbag or AMC Movie Talk that we right now are trying to raise money for cancer awareness. And once again, I'm just going to bring up this page again. It is the No Shave November. This is my personal donation page where I'd love for you to go and donate. Now, I'm going to put a link to my donation page, to my fundraising page in the description of this video, but also just go follow me on Facebook at John Campea or on Twitter at John Campea, and I'll put up the link there as well where you can go donate. And I would love it if you guys could go donate $1, donate $10, donate $40, whatever you can, because it's not just money going out into the theoretical realm of Asgard. It's actually doing something good to change people's lives. And I hope that you will participate with me in doing this. And thank you guys so much for your support as I do this, No Shave November thing. So please go on over and donate to that. Okay, with that out of the way, it's time for us to get to some movie questions, and we are going to get started. Oh, before we get into the movie questions, I want to remind you, if you've got a topic or question you would like brought up on AMC Mailbag or AMC Movie Talk, you can send in your questions anytime to @amcmovietalk@gmail.com, amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Send on in your email questions. Maybe you'll see your question on Movie Talk or Mailbag on the weekends here. And just send them on in. All right, with that out of the way, let's get to question number one. And question number one today comes to us from Nick M. I'm just going to say M because I'm totally going to butcher your last name if I try to say it. And Nick M writes, why is Interstellar doing so well on IMDb, but not so much on Rotten Tomatoes? You remember, guys, yesterday we actually kind of addressed a question about, the ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. But anyway, why is Interstellar doing so well on IMDb, but not so much on Rotten Tomatoes? I understand that I should form my own opinion, but for now, which should I give more credibility? Well, thanks a lot for the question, Nick. On yesterday's show, we talked about the fact that a lot of the reviews have come in now for Interstellar, and the last I checked, it was at 73%. Then it went up to 74%. Then it dropped back down to 73%. So it's hovering around the 75% range. Let's say that. And one of the points that I tried to make on yesterday's show was like, please, people, don't panic. Let's keep in mind that 75% on Rotten Tomatoes is a good score, man. That's a good score. That means if it hits 75%, that means 3 out of every 4 critics say this is a movie you should go see. And only 1 out of the 4 is saying, you might want to pass on it. So 75% is a good score. So let's not lose sight of that. But it has caught some people by surprise because it's a Christopher Nolan film, and usually speaking, all film critics kiss Christopher Nolan's butt, so you expect to see 85, 95, 96% ratings on a Christopher Nolan film. But anyway, what Nick is asking is, if you go to IMDb, right now, IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, it says 9.5 out of 10, or 95%. So why the discrepancy between IMDb and between Rotten Tomatoes? And what Nick is really asking is, which one should I listen to? Should I listen to IMDb or should I listen to Rotten Tomatoes? With the total understanding that you need to form your own opinion, of course. But if you're going to listen to one or the other, which one should you listen to? So that's a great question. And my answer is basically my own opinion. I'm going to explain why I have this opinion, but it's still up to you to decide what to do. So let's go on over and take a look at the Interstellar page right now. As you can see right down here, you see Interstellar right now has a 9.5 out of 10, and that's with 5,467 votes for the movie. So there's that, but on Rotten Tomatoes, as we said, right now, it only has, like a 73 or a 74%. Why that discrepancy, and which one should we listen to? In my opinion, you might have heard me say this before, the one that you should give your ear to, don't follow, don't obey, but give your ear to, take into consideration, the one you should listen to more is absolutely Rotten Tomatoes and not IMDb. And I'm going to explain to you, well, kind of, give an example to you, demonstrate here why I don't listen to any of the ratings on IMDb. Let's go back over to the Interstellar page. Now, keep in mind that I have not seen Interstellar yet. Other people on the AMC Movie News crew went to go watch it at the press screenings instead of me. So I haven't seen Interstellar yet, right? Okay, so keep that in mind. I'm a guy who has not seen Interstellar. I haven't watched one frame of it other than what's been in the trailers, okay? Well, now let's go back over to the IMDb page. Even though I am somebody who has not seen, and we see it's got a 9.5 out of 10, even though I'm somebody who has not seen Interstellar, look at this. I can vote. Right now, if I want to, I can vote on how good Interstellar is. So let's say, for argument's sake, just so I don't sway it one way or the other, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll give it a 5. There we go. I gave it a 5. I don't know why there was a problem, but I voted on this before. Anyway, I can vote on what the rating is for Interstellar. And herein lies the problem. I haven't seen the film, and I'm able to vote on it. It says there's 5,400 some odd votes. I'm going to tell you right now. Now, some of those people probably got to go to an advanced screening or whatever. But I'm going to tell you right now, at least 80% of those votes on IMDb were registered by people who have not yet seen the film. And therein lies the problem with IMDb, is that anybody can just get on there and vote whether or not they have seen the movie. Here's another great example about why. I mean, the IMDb voting system is cool just for a quick reference. That's fine. But you shouldn't really take it seriously because what I just demonstrated for you, people don't even see the movie. They just go on and go, oh, I want to give it a 10 because I know it's going to be awesome. Or I'm going to give it a 1 because I know it's going to suck. But here's another great example. I remember back when The Dark Knight came out. And there was this campaign by a certain group of people online who wanted to make The Dark Knight the highest rated film on IMDb, the number 1 film on IMDb. So whether they had seen the film or not, they were en masse going there and just clicking 10, 10, 10, 10, getting everybody to click 10 on that rating. But at the time, I believe the number 1 rated film was actually The Godfather. Or it might have been The Godfather Part 2. I can't remember which one it was. But what those people were also doing is not only were they giving 10 to The Dark Knight, they were also going over to the Godfather's page and giving it a 1. And, they probably had never seen the film, and of course only, some type of brain dead, lizard lying on the side of the road would give The Godfather a 1. All film is subjective, but nobody's given The Godfather a 1 out of 10. And so what they were doing is clicking 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 for The Dark Knight, whether they'd seen it or not, and then going over to The Godfather's page and clicking 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 to give it the lowest possible rating in an attempt to bring down The Godfather and raise it. So you see what happened here. There's no credibility to this. It's cool as a little reference, but you shouldn't listen to it because it's being voted on, registered. It's completely, there's no regulation, there's no anything to it. However, on Rotten Tomatoes, it's actually registered certified film critics, and not just anybody's, film reviews can be on Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes has to handpick them and put them in there. And there are about 300 or 400, I think, critics that they draw from, maybe 500, I'm not really sure, that they draw from. And those people have all seen the movies. So therefore, to me, just on that, there's about a dozen other reasons why I would say Rotten Tomato ratings are far more legit, far more worth your ear, far more worth your consideration than the IMDb rating. And IMDb is a great website overall. We're just talking about that little function they put in there about you being able to vote on a score for the film. But just on that basis alone, let alone the other dozen reasons, I would say that Rotten Tomatoes is definitely the one you should give more of your ear to normally than not. And that explains why right now Interstellar has a 9.5, because nobody's seen the film yet. A very, 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 very tiny percentage of people have actually seen the film. But because it's a Christopher Nolan film who has earned our benefit of the doubt, because it's a Christopher Nolan film, they're just going in there and clicking 10. So it doesn't really mean anything. So why is there a discrepancy between Rotten Tomatoes and the IMDb rating? Because Rotten Tomatoes is actually, their rating is based on people who've actually seen the movie. IMDb's is not based on people who've actually seen the movie. I'm sure if there are a few people, out of those 5,400 people who've cast votes already, I'm sure some of them have seen an advanced screening. But it's a small percentage of them. The vast majority of those people who've already voted on Interstellar, a movie that doesn't even come out to the end of this week, are people who haven't seen the film. Therefore, which one should you listen to more? You should probably listen to Rotten Tomatoes more. But again, the most important opinion is yours. Not Rotten Tomatoes, not IMDb's, not mine. The most important opinion is yours. But if you're asking which one should get my attention more, IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes, I'd go with Rotten Tomatoes. All right, let's move on to the next question today. And the next question today comes to us from Mato Rojas, who writes, "Hey guys, awesome job. Thank you so much. I've been listening to you for a short period, but I'm a fan now." Well, thank you so much, Mateo. So my question is regarding Batman vs. Superman. I was checking how much Man of Steel made at the box office, and I saw Guardians of the Galaxy earned like 1 million more. I think it was more than 1 million more. But anyway, so my question, don't you think that Warner Brothers chose to put that name, Batman vs. Superman, as a marketing strategy in order for it to earn a lot more in its release in theaters? Even if Batman is an important character, it is still the sequel for Man of Steel, so why don't they do something just Superman related? Thank you guys so much, and continue with the great job you do. Well, Mateo, first of all, let's clear something up. Batman vs. Superman is not the Man of Steel sequel. It's the next film. Batman vs. Superman is the next film in the DC cinematic universe. There's going to be at some point, they're going to announce pretty soon here a Man of Steel 2 and a Man of Steel 3. Pretty soon they're going to announce the first standalone Batman film and Batman 2. WB and DC will announce that within the next year or so, I'm sure. But Batman vs. Superman is not the Man of Steel sequel. It is the next film in the DC cinematic universe. But the heart of your question is, did they just put Batman in there so it would have better box office appeal? That's a hard question to answer definitively, because the answer is both yes and no. I mean, in a way, yes. In a way, you leverage your most popular character, who is unarguably, indisputably Batman. Obviously, you want to leverage that character for success. But at the same time, he is your best character. He's not just your most profitable character. Batman is your best character. And you know the fans want to see Batman and Superman. And you know, ever since The Dark Knight Returns, the comic book, You know, people have been waiting for decades to see Batman versus Superman. You know this is all the case. So, in one hand, no, they didn't just put Batman in there to draw box office. It's what's right for the story. He's a great character. This is a character pair up that people have been waiting for decades and decades to see on screen together. That's why they're doing it. But at the same time, you can change the semantics around and say, well, you want to do that because it'll make more money. So obviously, having Batman in a movie with Superman is going to make more money than a Superman standalone film. Absolutely. But this movie was never meant as a Superman standalone film. This is the next film in the DC Cinematic Universe. It's going to have both characters, and it's something that everybody wants. So you see, on one hand, yes, they did it so it'll make more money. But at the same time, all the other reasons apply. It makes sense narratively. It's what the audience has been wanting. It's what I've been wanting. It's what you've been wanting. It's what all of us have been wanting. We've all been wanting Batman versus Superman. That's the reason they're doing it. But you certainly can't make an argument against the fact that it's going to make them more cash at the same time. So clearly there's a marketing element involved too. But keep this in mind. Every film in creation has those different considerations. Every film in creation is made to make money. There are no films that come out of Hollywood today that don't have the intent to make money, and with effort put into it to make as much money as it can. So every film that comes out, the idea is this is going to make money. And so as Warner Brothers is making Batman versus Superman, are they going to do certain things in putting this film together to make sure it earns as much money as it can? Well, yes. Is adding Batman to this film going to add more money to the success of the film? Well, yes, but that's kind of the same as any other film ever created in history, pretty much. Obviously, I'm using hyperbole. There are exceptions along the way. But generally speaking, this is nothing new. So I don't believe for a second, though, that Warner Brothers just thought, well, we don't want to use Batman, but let's throw him in there to make more money. No, they want to use Batman just because he's a great character. It'll make for a great movie. And with the added bonus that it's going to earn them some much needed extra cash. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Thomas Aguirre, who writes, "Hey guys, great show. Thank you so much, Thomas. I watch and listen every day. I have a question. About a year ago, I've started noticing that not only do trailers sometimes give away too much about the movie, but also they include scenes that don't end up in the movie itself when it's released in the theater. It kind of really bothers me, because then I'm expecting to see it in the movie and end up disappointed instead. Why do they do this? Thank you, and bring on the filthy." Well, let me address a couple things in your thing before I get to your main question. I am still one of these guys who I believe this whole notion that trailers show too much is actually one of these blown out of proportion things that everybody says. Because, for instance, The Judge, right? The most recent Robert Downey Jr. film that kind of failed miserably. Anyway, pretty good movie, though, I thought. So The Judge, I remember a lot of people saw trailers for The Judge, and there were a number of people I was talking to saying, well, it just showed me the whole movie. But then I saw the movie, and it's like, no, that trailer really didn't give away a couple little things, but it didn't really, that trailer did not give away the whole movie. I think sometimes we look at a trailer and we can think it's giving everything away, but then if you actually go see the movie, you realize, oh, the trailer really didn't. It kind of looked like it did, but when you see the movie, you realize it didn't. I think that happens more times than not. So I think this perception that trailers all give away way too much, I think that's more a perception thing than a reality thing. There are absolutely some movie trailers that give away way too much. Absolutely, there are. But I don't think it's as predominant as the perception and the popular, mindset would suggest that it is. I really don't think it's as big of a problem as people think it is. Once again, it's like the trailer comes out and you may think that trailer just gave everything away. Well, wait till you see the movie and then judge if that trailer gave everything away or not. And once again, there are examples where it does, but I don't think it's nearly as popular, or I don't think it's nearly as big of a problem as a lot of people make it out to be. Okay, so now let's go on to the other part of your question, though, about trailers that show us stuff that is not even in the movie. Now, we talked a lot before about deceptive trailers, but this is a different thing. This is, We've talked about deceptive trailers, like that one Mission Impossible film with Anthony Hopkins, right? You watch the trailer, Anthony Hopkins is in like half of the trailer. I think it's Mission Impossible 2 or 3. I think it's, let's say 3. So it's got a ton of Anthony Hopkins, but Anthony Hopkins is only in the movie for 2 scenes. So very deceptive. I've talked before about deceptive trailers about, what's the name of that Disney film? Terabithia, Bridge to Terabithia. That's it. Where the trailers make it look like it's this fun fantasy adventure, kind of in the realm of a Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, where they have this children discover this magical kingdom in the woods and all this kind of stuff, and it makes it look like that. And then you see the movie, and you realize, holy crap, that's not what this movie's about at all. It's very dark and sad and depressing, and a child dies, and it's about dealing with loss and dealing with pain and all this. And it's a totally different movie than what the trailers led you to believe it was. That's deceptive trailers. But now, what we're talking about here is specifically, it's not just deceptive and misleading us about the film. They're actually putting things in the trailer that are not in the movie. And this happens all the time. 2 examples that I can think of right off the top of my head. One is Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, the one that was just out, right? Like there's some key dialogue in that trailer of, Peter, not everybody gets a happy ending. It's like, well, if I'm not mistaken, that wasn't even in the film. One of the big ones was Iron Man 2. There's that scene right at the beginning of Iron Man, and they put this in the trailer, where Tony and Pepper are in the back of the plane, and Tony's about to jump out of the plane to go down and give his big speech. Well, I guess in the trailer, something along the lines of, "You complete me," or whatever. He gives some kind of pithy line in the trailer that's hilarious and really funny, but then you watch Iron Man 2, and it's not even in there. And this type of thing happens all the time. Now, why does it happen? There's an innocent reason, and there's a more diabolical reason. In the innocent examples of this happening is sometimes these trailers are put together before the final cut of the film is done. So in that case, the people responsible for putting a trailer together, maybe they believe that everything they're putting in the trailer is in the movie. Maybe the cut of the film that they're basing the trailer they're putting together on has those scenes in it. So they put out the trailer, and then by the time the final edit of the film is done, the final cut is done, and the picture's locked, that might have been edited out. So there are certainly, I think probably the majority of the times that we see things in trailers that aren't in the movies, I think the majority of the time is probably more the more innocent answer, where maybe it was intended to be in the movie when they made this trailer, but by the time the movie was done, those scenes, those little parts of the movie were no longer in it. Okay, that happens. I mean, that totally happens. Because you're not going to go, we think what's best for the movie is to take this scene out. Oh, but we already had it in the trailer, so we better leave it in. No, I don't think, no. The filmmakers need to make the best movie possible. If that means taking out scenes that were already in the trailer, I'm totally cool with that. I have no problem. But then there are some times where they just make stuff up or go into ADR and get actors to say new lines or whatever, and put them in trailers even though they know this isn't in the movie, but it makes for a better trailer. That's a practice I believe that it has to stop. Because remember, a movie trailer is like the package on a product on the shelf in, a Walmart. And if I'm going to buy a product and I see, here's this pack, let's say it's a Lego package, whatever, right? And on this package, it says, oh, it has 4 blue blocks. It has this, it has this, it has this, it has this. And on the package, it also says contains 4 blue blocks. And I look at the package, and what's on the package is one of the things that helps me determine whether I'm going to buy this product or not. And I go, okay, it says it's got 4 blue blocks. That looks good to me. I buy the package, only to then get home, open it up, and realize those 4 blue blocks are not what's in there. And with movie trailers, that's what you're doing. Your trailer is your packaging for selling the movie. And if you tell me, hey, this line about not everybody getting a happy ending, or if this line is you complete me, or whatever is in a movie, isn't actually in the movie, but it's in your trailer, what you've done is you've taken your package that's on the Walmart shelf and put a picture of something on it or listed something that's in this box that is not actually in the box. In the grand scheme of things, is it really a huge deal? Practically speaking, no. But on principle, it is. You're selling me a movie and telling me that something is in it when it's not in it. That's wrong. And if it's not in it because of an accident, if it's not in it because the movie got changed after the packaging was made, after the trailer was made, I can forgive that. That's okay, I get it. But this other practice of intentionally putting things into a trailer just to make the trailer better that you know full well is not in the movie you're selling us, then that's wrong. Once again, this isn't world hunger. It's not that big of a deal, but just in principle. And I think as film fans, we deserve better. So yeah, dude, Hollywood, if you're going to put something in a trailer, don't put it in there if you know it's not going to be in the final cut of the movie. You know, we'll forgive you if you thought it was going to be in the final cut and it doesn't end up being in the final cut. We'll forgive that. But don't do it intentionally. Don't engage in actively trying to mislead us as film fans. We're giving you a lot of money to go see your movies, so don't lie to us. Anyway, all right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Ellie Belling, who writes, "Hi there, I love the show, guys. Listen to every episode on my way to school each morning." Well, thanks a lot, Ellie. Appreciate that. I was wondering what the chances of a Scream 5 are. I remember hearing some talk of a TV series a while ago, but I haven't heard anything for a while. I felt like the fourth one was setting the series up for several modern films set in this Scream universe, and if I remember correctly, it did decently at the box office. Well, thanks a lot for the question, Ellie. I appreciate it. The reality is that the Scream franchise was one of these. It decreased in quality. It decreased in financial return. If I'm not mistaken, the last Scream film, I believe, cost $40 million to make, made about $38 million at the box office. And remember, it cost 40, it made 38, it only lost $2 million. No, it actually lost a lot more than that. Because then you're taking, out of that $38 million, you forget that movie theaters are going to keep approximately 1/3. So really, when it was all said and done, the movie probably lost the studio about 10, 12, $13 million. I don't know about you. I don't have $13 million I can just lose. And despite how everybody thinks Hollywood studios have nothing but endless supplies of money, the reality is they don't like to lose just $10 million gone like that. Just gone, just lost. They don't like it. And so with the decreasing popularity of the franchise and the decreasing financial returns and the fact that the last one lost money, I can just speak for me personally. I liked Scream 1. I'm not interested in Scream 5. I don't think the filmmakers are interested in Scream 5. I don't think the studios are interested in Scream 5. That doesn't mean there's not some things you might be able to do with the concept of Scream, like maybe a television series or something like that. And maybe there's going to be some direct to video, maybe cheap, really low budgets versions. Maybe you can do Scream 5 for like $2 million and just put it direct to Netflix or direct to home video, or put it out in 6 theaters for 1 week and then put it on home video. Maybe something like that can happen. But and anything can happen. Anything's possible. But I got a feeling, if I had to give a guess right now, my guess is that we're not going to see a Scream 5 as a major Hollywood production, as a wide release film. I don't think it's going to happen. Could be wrong. It might. Anything's possible. It's not like Scream lost the studio $100 million, right? But it's not profitable, waning interest. It's kind of time to move on from Scream. I'm going to doubt that we're going to see a Scream 5 hit the big screens. But hey, anything's possible. Let's keep our eyes open. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Charlie Stickland, who writes, "My question is, do you think/feel that Nintendo is missing out on Hollywood? With their poorly adapted Super Mario Bros. Movie back in the early 90s, I can understand about having a bitter taste in your mouth from the experience. It is my opinion that as a movie audience, we are ready to see Nintendo try again. I am not certain if they just refuse to have one of their franchise characters dropped into cinema, or if they feel that it is not worth the risk again." Well, thanks a lot for the question, Charlie. And, Mario Brothers was an unfortunate thing. It's too bad. You had like an actor like Bob Hoskins in there, R.I.P. Bob Hoskins. You had Dennis Hopper, Leguizamo was in it. It had pretty decent cast. The Super Mario Brothers was so popular at the time, blah, 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 but it just didn't work. I think why Nintendo hasn't dipped their toes back into this whole realm of making movies based on their video game properties is twofold. Number one is one reason you've already pointed out. I believe they're still kind of trigger shy. I mean, they entered this world and they made their own property look stupid. They made Mario Brothers look bad, which is bad for their video game business. They lost money, which is bad. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think they're very trigger shy about jumping into the world of feature films based on their properties again for that. But the other reason I believe is this. When you look at the Nintendo lineup, I don't see a lot there that is really ripe for a cinematic interpretation. Look at Super Mario Brothers. I can't think of a way to make a good, broad, appealing, engaging, entertaining movie based on the Super Mario Brothers. I just don't see a way to make a Mario and Luigi running around a compelling movie project that could be successful. Now, that's not to say there aren't some creative geniuses out there who may be able to come up with a great way to do it. But it's not like Call of Duty. Like, Call of Duty is the type of game that is very cinematic in nature. You could totally see because it feels very Hollywood already, right? So when you look at something like Call of Duty or Assassin's Creed or things like that, they already feel like they're set up to be told in a cinematic manner. Mario Brothers, not so much. And honestly, I can't think of really any other Nintendo properties that I think would have a clear path to a cinematic interpretation. Except maybe Link, right? I mean, Link could be a very cool character in a cinematic way. So you could take that video game franchise and make it work. That's one possibility. And usually when you're talking about possible Nintendo movies, that's the one that most people will go to. They'll say, okay, Link. Link is the one character and his world that you could probably make something out of. If Nintendo ever does try to enter that cinematic realm again, I've got a feeling that that's the one we're going to see. Probably not another rendition of Mario Brothers, but who knows? Like I said, anything's possible. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Phil Kerrigan, who writes, "Hello, was wondering how you felt about the remake of the Raid movies, which is without a doubt 2 of the best movies ever. I am not a big fan of remakes, and I am almost positive that the remake of The Raid will not be anywhere as good as the original. With that said, some people don't like movies with subtitles. Shocking, I know. Do you think the Raid remake will do well and better than the original?" Well, thanks a lot for the question, Phil. And we get into the issue of remakes and all that kind of stuff all the time. You all know my opinion on remakes. I'm fine with a remake of anything, really, because if you do a remake of a great movie and the remake sucks, who cares? The great movie is still there. I still have the great movie. I can still watch the great movie whenever I want. So doing a remake and having it suck, there is no negative consequences. And some people go, well, if they do a remake, that'll turn people off from watching the original. Newsflash, they weren't watching the original anyway. And sometimes remakes can actually help the original. You know, I've always said my favorite cop film all time is Infernal Affairs. It's the Asian film, right? Well, what happened was Martin Scorsese decided to do a North American remake of it, and he made The Departed, and guess what? Won Best Picture at the Oscars, won Martin Scorsese's Best Director award, but one of the ramifications of The Departed was more people, because they saw The Departed and then found out it was based on an original Asian film, more people then went to check out the original Asian film than ever would have before. More people have seen Infernal Affairs now because of The Departed. So, you know, sometimes if you've got this really beloved original film that nobody's ever seen, having a North American remake of it can actually help point people to go and increase interest in people to go see the original. Even if the North American remake isn't all that good, like The North American version of The Ring was okay. It was pretty good. Nowhere near as the original Asian film, though. But what happened is, A whole ton of people discovered the original one because the North American version was there. The Grudge was another one. The Grudge wasn't even any good, the North American version. But because there was a North American version, a lot of people found out, oh, it's based on an original Asian film. And a whole ton of people checked out the original Asian film than ever would have before. And I'm going to tell you this. I guarantee you this. I know one of the producers of The Raid is actually a friend of mine, personal friend of mine that I've known for a lot of years. And I can tell you this, I can guarantee you this. Nobody is more happy about a North American remake of The Raid than my buddy who's one of the producers on The Raid. Why? Because nobody saw The Raid. All right? Nobody saw it. Nobody saw The Raid. Nobody saw The Raid 2. Have you seen the box office numbers? They're infinitesimal. Now, I think it was actually profitable because they made the Raid films for so inexpensively. But in the grand scheme of things, almost nobody has seen The Raid or The Raid 2. Just look up the numbers. They speak for themselves. But I guarantee you that when the Raid remake comes out, it is going to increase awareness of the originals. Everybody's going to start talking about how awesome the originals are, and more people are going to go back and watch the original Raid films than ever would have if it wasn't for the fact that they were doing a remake. Guarantee it. Absolutely. That's a lock. Absolutely 100% guaranteed. Now, you're asking, you asked two questions. Will a remake of the Raid make money? The answer to that is, well, the Raid remake is going to make a lot more money than the original Raid films do. That's a guarantee. But then you ask, could it be better than the original films? No. The Raid remake will not be better, obviously. Will not be better. Don't say obviously. At very, very tiny percent chance that the Raid remake will be as good or better than the original Raid films. But that's irrelevant. All I care about as a film fan is the Raid remake a good movie? That's all. Doesn't have to be as good as the originals. Is the Raid remake just going to be a good film? Am I going to enjoy myself going to go watch it? Put the original films out. Judge the remake on its own merit. Don't judge it in comparison to the originals. And the only thing that's ultimately going to matter is it a good film? That's all. So it's very unlikely that it'll be as good as the originals. But once again, I'm telling you, if you are a fan of the originals, you should not be turned off by the prospects of a Raid remake, which is coming. You should be excited about a Raid remake because now it's going to raise awareness of the originals and more people are going to check out the originals, much like The Departed, much like The Grudge, much like The Ring, much like a lot of those films in history. More people will now check out the originals because there's a remake. And so if you're a true fan of The Raid, you should be rejoicing at the prospects of a remake. Anyway, let's move on to the next question. We're starting to run out of time here. And the next question comes to us from Shane Whoopi. And Shane writes, "Hey guys, love the show. I listen to it at work every day. A guilty pleasure film of mine is Speed Racer. I thought it was the second best movie of that year behind The Dark Knight, and I've watched it recently and it's still great. Why did it not connect with an audience?" Well, thanks a lot for the question, Shane. Yes, Speed Racer is one of these films that actually is pretty divisive amongst a lot of people. It didn't do great. And, Shane, I'm really glad you loved it. That's the great thing about film. We can all have different opinions about them and all that kind of stuff, and I'm glad that you liked it. I personally did not. My personal opinion was, and this is just my opinion, my experience of the film, was it was pretty unenjoyable from the start. I'm going to bring up something here. I'm going to bring up the Rotten Tomatoes page for it. And one of the guys I really like in film criticism is Peter Travers from the Rolling Stone. He generally likes the same types of movies I do. He likes the big summer blockbusters, the big fun. Speed Racer is actually the kind of movie that you think he would like. Peter, though, his review kind of sums up my feelings on Speed Racer. And Peter wrote, "Even the target audience of 10-year-olds might get Jimmy Legs sitting for a punishing 135 minutes as the Wachowski brothers projectile vomit their cotton candy dreams all over the big screen." And it should be noted, too, that when you go and check it out, it's got a 39% on the Rotten Tomatoes, which means like almost 4 out of 10 critics liked it, and almost a little over 6 out of 10 critics did not enjoy it. And that's fine, whatever. I happen to be one of these people that I really didn't enjoy it. Speed Racer was one of those films that I wanted to like. I wanted to like it very badly, But I thought narratively it was a mess. I thought the performances were bad, even though it has a great cast of very, very talented people in it. It was way too long for the type of movie it was. And basically, it was just a visual effects thing. It was like, I felt like they just got so caught up in how do we show off these great visuals that they forgot to make a decent movie out of it. Now, once again, there are people who feel differently, like you. You enjoyed it, and that's awesome if you enjoyed it. Just because I didn't doesn't mean you shouldn't have. I'm just saying I think the reason it didn't connect with a lot of audiences and a lot of people in the audience is like me, because once again, I thought it was bad dialogue, bad story, didn't make a lot of logical sense at any rate. The flow felt very jarred, and it felt like it was just a showpiece for visual effects. And the visual effects weren't the types of visual effects that could have just carried the film on their own anyway. But there are other people who have different opinions on that than I do. You're clearly one of them, but for me, that's why Speed Racer didn't work. All right, and now we move on to the final question of the day. And the final question today comes to us from Sam Rogers, who writes, "Hey guys, love the show. My question concerns Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and its Oscar chances. Do you think Andy Serkis and or Toby Kebbell will be nominated, and do you think the movie itself will be nominated? Thanks, and bring on the filthy." Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, I really enjoyed the film the first time I saw it. I gave it a 7.5. And you understand that for me, that's a very, very good score for me. I enjoyed it. I had a couple of issues with it. I watched it again, and although I didn't change my review, I adjusted my score for it from a 7.5 to an 8. And then I watched it a third time, and I might have even upped it like to an 8.2 or something. I don't know. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is one of those films for me that the more I watch it, I seem to enjoy it more. It's a very, very solid film. Now, with Andy Serkis is not going to get a Best Actor nomination out of this. We talked about the Best Actor category on yesterday's mailbag. It is simply too crowded. There are way too many high, powerful performances this year that just there's no room for Andy Serkis. Forget the whole discussion about can somebody doing a CG, a motion capture performance. Just put that out of it for a second. With Jake Gyllenhaal for Nightcrawler, Steve Carell in Foxcatcher. You've got Michael Keaton in Birdman, Eddie Redmayne for The Theory of Everything, Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch. You've got Ralph Fiennes for The Grand Budapest Hotel. You've got, there's literally a list of 7 or 8 or 9 really solid performances this year in the Best Actor category, and there's only room for 5 nominees. So there's just no room at the end for Andy Serkis this year. And, I've argued before for Andy Serkis for his performance in the first Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I thought he should have got nominated for Best Supporting Actor. And he's even better this year, but the category is just too stacked. There's no room for him in there. With Toby Kebbell, who also did a magnificent job, and I'm glad you mentioned him because a lot of people overlook his performance as Koba because of how great Andy Serkis is. But Toby's going to run into the same kind of problem that Andy Serkis has. He's not going to beat out Tom Wilkinson for Selma. He's not going to beat out Ethan Hawke for Boyhood. He's not going to beat out Edward Norton for Birdman. Everybody's talking about Michael Keaton in Birdman, and rightfully so. But it's making a lot of people overlook how amazing Edward Norton is in Birdman as well, Best Supporting Actor. He's definitely not going to bump out J.K. Simmons for Whiplash. So much like Andy Serkis, there's no room. There's just no room for him there. However, I had a discussion with one of my friends the other day about the Oscar chances for Best Picture for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. One of the problems that Andy Serkis and Toby Kebbell are running into is that they're in categories that only have 5 nominees. That's it. 5. Only room for 5. If you're not one of the top 5, or if there are 5 others who are ahead of you, there's no spot for you. But Best Picture, ever since they changed the rules a few years ago, can have anywhere from 5 nominees to 10 nominees. And I made the argument to my friend that I believe in a year that gets 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 nominees for Best Picture, if they work out that way this year. There's a whole mathematical voting process that determines how many films get nominated each year. I'm not going to go into all that right now. But if this ends up being a year where 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 films get nominated for Best Picture, I'm going to say that I believe Dawn of the Planet of the Apes has a shot. a legit shot, not just a 1 in a million shot, but a legit shot of getting into that number 10, that number 9 spot. Now, does it have any prayer of winning Best Picture? No, not at all. But could it get one of those coveted nomination spots? If it ends up being 5 nominees or 6 nominees, probably not. But if there's 7, 8, 9, or 10, I would give it a better than a 50-50% chance that it could get that number 10, number 9, number 8 spot. So let's keep our fingers crossed for it, sit back, and wait for the Oscars in a few months. All right, folks, that will do it for me for this installment of AMC Mailbag. Thank you so much for joining me. I want to remind you once again, I'm just going to bring it up here one more time, that you're going to see this face get more and more ridiculous looking than it already is over the month of November because I am participating and going to try to raise money for the No Shave November campaign. Follow me on my social media networks on Facebook and on Twitter, and you'll find the link to my donation page where you can go and donate $1, $5, $10, $50, whatever you can. Make a donation so collectively we as film fans can begin to make a difference in people's lives, raise awareness, and fight this horrible, horrible disease on all of humanity, which is cancer, which has touched all of our lives. I also want to remind you guys that if you want to get your question on AMC Mailbag and see your name up there, email us at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Send on in your question, and maybe you'll see your question on the show. And also, I want to remind you, too, that there are a lot of great films playing at AMC Theaters right now. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for your theater, showtime, and, of course, your movie ticket information. And once again, you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, all the various social media networks. Just go to @JohnCampia, and you can follow me there. So that'll do it for me, guys, for this episode of AMC Movie, or Mailbag, I should say. Don't forget to join the crew on Monday for AMC Movie Talk for all of your movie news with a little bit of insight into what it all means. Thanks a lot for joining us, guys. My name's John Campia for AMC Movie News, and until next time, bye-bye.